morning, everybody, and welcome to our daily live stream here at Pinnacle People Solutions. A little bit different to look at you this morning and for you to be looking at us, because it's more than just me, which is so exciting. I'm Bronwyn Pearson from Pinnacle People Solutions, and I'm delighted this morning to welcome, at a socially appropriate distance, another member of our wonderful team that I get to introduce to you, who's joining me this morning, and it's Gina Mackenzie, our HR officer. So fantastic for Gina to be here this morning, particularly because we're talking about innovative recruitment strategies and how to get the best outcomes. And I have to say, Gina is is on the front line of recruitment at the moment for us, working madly with clients to get them the best people. So she's going to offer some pearls of wisdom this morning too as we go through. But just to kick off, so our company, Pinnacle People Solutions, provides human resource services, advice, support, solutions, etc., to regionally based small to medium businesses and not-for-profit organisations. And we are absolutely here to help you during these really challenging COVID-19 times. So we've been, I think we've got 8 weeks up this today in terms of doing daily weekday Facebook Lives. And our intention is to try and distill the heaps of information that's coming to business owners and their staff every 24 hours, and so that makes sense for you, and also to talk about particular topics that our audience are asking us to discuss. And so today we're talking about recruitment. So as I said, we're live at 9:15 every weekday, have been for 8 weeks today. And please ask us any questions that you have as we go along, although today it's going to be very difficult for me at this distance to see the chat screen. So I would ask any questions that you've got. I'll be sure to turn them around within the next 24 hours and answer them live tomorrow morning. Or I can also make contact with you directly. So I'm sure our team are going to put up the direct contact information for how you can get in touch with us, which of course you can over Facebook, via direct messaging and so forth, but also email, phone. And these live streams are being recorded and they're available up in both our Facebook page and also our YouTube channel and in LinkedIn. So feel free to go back and have a look at some other topics that might be of particular interest to you. So before we get into our chat about recruitment and best strategies for getting the right people, I just want to give you a bit of a update on developments in the last 24 hours. My apologies, we did have a technical issue yesterday morning with the live stream, but it subsequently went up about an hour later, I think. So I have previewed some of these changes in that live stream, but I'm going to do it again this morning just to make sure that everybody's up to date. So just to confirm that the enrolment for JobKeeper for businesses has been extended to the 31st of May. It was originally a 30th of April deadline, but has been extended, which is great news, to the 31st of May. We are now the 7th of May. By tomorrow, the 8th of May, if you believe you will be a JobKeeper eligible employer, you need to make sure that you have paid your JobKeeper eligible staff a minimum of $1,500 a fortnight less tax by tomorrow. So the deadline is tomorrow, the 8th of May, in order to be eligible for JobKeeper for the first 2 fortnights. And that's the 30th of March to the 12th of April and the 13th of April to the 26th of April. Get in touch with us, of course, as I should have said at the outset, if you've got any queries, questions, or need support in respect of any of these programs and processes. I also mentioned yesterday that there's been a negotiated agreement between some of the unions and workers at some of the country's largest fast food chains about making some award amendments that would allow reduced shifts and forced leave as part of a temporary change to workplace rules. The Fair Work Commission has deferred their decision. That went to the Commission on Tuesday. They've deferred their decision. We'll give you more information when we have it. Those changes are intended to try and keep staff in jobs that are not going to be eligible for JobKeeper. So that's something that we'll keep you up to speed in. Yesterday, the Prime Minister provided I should say on Tuesday afternoon, the Prime Minister gave a press conference after the National Cabinet meeting and has flagged as sort of a structured reintroduction of businesses back to work. We'll get some detail as to what that framework looks like and so forth tomorrow afternoon when the National Cabinet meets again tomorrow. The intention is that the Prime Minister will announce a national framework for easing of restrictions. The National Cabinet have also decided that Safe Work Australia will be the single source of information for employers to protect their on safe rules to protect their workers in terms of their health and safety obligations. But specific decisions regarding that will be announced tomorrow after tomorrow's National Cabinet meeting. So we also know that the unions are pushing at the moment for 3 particular changes when it comes to ensuring health and safety of staff resuming work with the pandemic still in operation. And that is paid pandemic leave for all workers. You might remember that I did a session a number of weeks ago which included information about unpaid pandemic leave, which has been introduced to all modern awards. But the union are now looking for paid pandemic leave for all workers, a legal obligation on employers to protect their workers from coronavirus by measures like social distancing, and a duty for companies to tell regulators about coronavirus cases amongst their staff. So we'll have more information about that tomorrow afternoon, and I'm looking to do a special live stream broadcast on Saturday morning to interpret what the outcomes have been that the Prime Minister will have announced late tomorrow afternoon. So that will be available up on our website once the live stream is finished, of course, and I'll reference it again on Monday. The other thing that we know from the National Cabinet meeting on Tuesday is that businesses all now have access to a planning toolkit on the Safe Work Australia website, which is designed to help businesses to navigate work health and safety laws and obligations as their staff return to work. So this is very interesting, and we'll actually be doing a number of sessions on this next week to help businesses with the navigating, sort of starting to get potentially back to work and operation or doing things differently in order to meet their health and safety obligations. So protocols such as cleaning, social distancing, personal protective equipment and hygiene are all addressed and available in those toolkits on the Safe Work Australia website, and I've no doubt my team are busy putting up those links for you in the chat screen now so that you can get easy access to those. We'll be given specifics on restrictions on Friday, so tomorrow afternoon. A national framework of how and when restrictions will be eased will be being released tomorrow. Even though it's a national framework, as it has been throughout this process to this point in time, individual states and territories will ultimately have their own determinations as to how they put that framework into effect and when. And the Prime Minister has foreshadowed that many restrictions will already have been started to be eased by the time that this announcement is made tomorrow afternoon. But again, we'll do a special live stream on Saturday morning to preview what the impacts of those announcements are. So today's topic, woohoo! Today's topic is innovative recruitment strategies to get the best outcomes. And some of you might be going, okay, so I've joined this because I'm a bit curious, but we're not recruiting at the moment. In fact, we've been having to work out how we could possibly keep the people we've got, or indeed may have had to stand down or make staff redundant to this point in time. And look, I really appreciate that, but it's always important, particularly as we start charting this road out of the pandemic and the learnings that we're going to take from that as business owners and staff. The fact that business as usual won't look like business as usual. It doesn't now. It's certainly not going to at the end of this. And this won't be the only emergency like this pandemic that we have to be prepared for. So best that we are learning as fast and as furiously as we can be at the moment to make sure that that we're well prepared, dare I say, when and if this happens again. So one of the things I guess I want to talk to you about today, and I'm going to ask my wonderful colleague here to throw her 2 cents in as well as we go along, is when we think about recruitment, we're a long way from the days of, you know, tiny, very expensive print ads in print publications, where recruitment was an awfully expensive exercise from that perspective. And we kind of had a one-size-fits-all approach. Recruitment is and as it should be, a very different landscape right now. And to do recruitment effectively for any organisation, you need to remember first and foremost that recruitment is marketing. Yeah. So every time your brand appears in the marketplace, you're sending very clear messages about your business, what kind of employer you are, and what kind of organisation you are. So even when you're out in the market advertising your products or services, it's very clear that that you are making very clear statements about your business. It's the same with recruitment. What we would expect, if you're getting that messaging right, we would expect to see an uptake in inquiries for your goods and services, as much as for interest in joining your organisation. So that's probably a bit of a litmus test for how well that goes. The other thing we know, of course, and Gina and I have had this experience with clients many times, by the time they've come to us, they've often had the experience of getting recruitment decisions wrong. And that can be absolutely disastrous for a business. So my advice and our strong guidance to recruitment clients is never pick the best from a mediocre bunch. Avoid the upright with a heartbeat trap that often befalls regionally based employers, because, you know, there is a collective thought that it's difficult for us to get great talent, get and keep great talent in regional areas with particularly unique skill sets and so forth. I actually don't agree with that. Mm-hmm. I think if you do it well and you do it, you get your messaging and everything right, not only does it not have to cost you a bomb, but you can absolutely tap those skills and expertise that you need. Mm-hmm. So never pick the best from a mediocre bunch. My advice always is be frank and fearless and go again, and let's tweak the messaging and the channels we might be using, and invariably you get great outcomes. So as I said, recruitment has changed radically from the days of tiny, very expensive print ads, and we're now seeing videos, extensive use of social media and direct channel marketing. And the reason for that is that really forward-thinking organisations really want for potential candidates to get a sense of what it's like to actually be in that organisation and what that organisation's actually like. And the fact of the matter is that all of us as humans are really captivated by each other's stories. So we're focused on giving potential candidates and the community an insight into what makes our clients' businesses tick. And so that's become an incredibly important part of recruitment. You'll see a lot of work happening, and you should be exploring as businesses the opportunities that social media and channel marketing offer you, because it's a lot less expensive and a lot more impactful than traditional very expensive print media. The most important thing, I think, is to get your messaging right, know exactly who you're talking to and who you want to read your messaging, and get it down the right channels. So, and obviously, as I've said before, we can help with any and all of those things to make sure that you're getting those things right. The other thing that we're finding, I think, in this period of time too, is that we're aiming to certainly capture active candidates, so candidates that are actively looking for other opportunities, But we're also really keen to get in front of passive candidates. And these are candidates who are not actively looking for another role, but they might find your organisation and your role compelling because it speaks to them. Whether they've seen it across their news feeds and so forth, or whether somebody has read it and gone, oh my gosh, that's so-and-so, and has sent that message across to their colleague or their friend or family member. Often the best hires are actually passive candidates, the ones that are not actively looking. I'm not saying that active candidates aren't great candidates, but those passive candidates who might be quite content where they are, but the ad and the messaging about your organisation really speaks to them, and that's what piques their curiosity, they can often be the really great hires. I'll give you an example. So last night we launched a really innovative social media recruitment campaign for the role of electrician with Paynes Electrical in Moree. Watch this space. Indeed, you might actually see it pop up in your feeds, and we'd be delighted to get your feedback as and when that happens. We've also got another role in the market for a sales specialist at the moment for BG's, and BG is recruiting for both the Western New South Wales and also the Greater Brisbane areas. So go up and have a look at what we're doing in terms of the recruitment of those two roles as a bit of an example of doing recruitment differently. Okay, so I guess one of the things that I would say to start with before I ask Gina for her wonderful insights is, before you even go about recruitment, it's really important to ask yourself a whole range of different questions. The first is, do you know what you need? And a lot of times when people come to us with recruitment requests, there might be a sense of urgency because somebody is going to be leaving from a position, or all of a sudden they've got another contract and their work volume is going to go up radically. And so they're like, quick, I need someone, I need them now, a bit like the upright with a heartbeat comment I made earlier. And so the first thing we generally do is ask them, okay, is this really what you need? Particularly if you're a small to medium-sized business, every recruitment opportunity is an opportunity to get skills and attributes into your team that you don't already have. So that first question, do you know what you need, and what is it that you really need that we can help you discern? Do you have a recruitment policy that would guide you through the process? If you don't, it's a really good idea to have one. Do you know where to find the best staff? And as I said, there's often a collective view that it's really hard to recruit into regional areas, particularly for highly specialised roles. We don't actually subscribe to that opinion. You've got to have really good and effective recruitment strategies, don't get me wrong, but it's absolutely possible to do that if you do it really effectively. Do you know what information to seek from candidates and what you can ask for? So one of the things that we always require, unless there's a very good reason why it's not possible, and we're always open to that suggestion, but one of the things that we always tell our clients is always ask for the current and immediate former supervisors as referees. If a candidate balks at that, there might be a very good and legitimate reason, but there might also not. And so they're the people that you really want to talk to as referees, and you're not stuck with whoever your candidates give you as referees. You can and should probably at the outset of recruitment make it clear what information you want from your candidates. Have you ever had a poor recruitment experience or know someone who has? Most of us would fit into to one or both of those categories. And it's an absolute nightmare for organisations. So, this is incredibly important, adding another member to your team. And it's incredibly important to get it right and to get someone who's the right fit. Do you complete referee checks, and do you know how to go about obtaining the feedback that you need? Sometimes we hear the statement, oh, referee checks are a waste of time because people never say anything, negative about somebody. It's all in the asking. What you ask, how you ask, and who you ask. So we can certainly help further guide you in that respect as well. Are you confident that the person you've chosen can fulfil the requirements of the job? How can you be confident? And we've got good processes in place to make sure that you can absolutely be picking the right people. And do you know what information you must give to staff when you employ them? So yesterday I went through employment contracts and position descriptions was yesterday's topic. And they are two elements, or information contained in those are two elements of the information you must by law provide to staff. So it's important to understand in the package that of including an offer of employment that you give to a new staff member, that you know exactly what your lawful obligations are as far as that. And do you know the cost of replacing an employee? Well, what we can tell you is that research has demonstrated that the cost of replacing somebody is between 75 and 150% of their first year's remuneration. Salary, super, and any other components that might make up their remuneration, which sounds like a huge amount of money, and it is. But that's not outward recruitment costs in terms of the cost of advertising or even engaging an organisation like ours to assist you. It's very much, the fact that when somebody decides they're leaving, their productivity usually drops off. You've then got a vacant period of time where you might need casuals or other support or other staff to step up to help. You've then got the recruitment process itself and costs associated with that. Time, absolutely, the time it might take for you to get the right candidate. The new person joins, and then it's probably going to take 3 to 6 months for them to really get up to speed. So over that period of time, it's costing the business an enormous amount of time, energy, money. And to the extent that research has been able to put it down to 75 to 150% of the first year's remuneration. So it's a great investment to get it right, and a necessary investment for you to get it right. So before you even go about recruiting, I guess some of the things that I would say is consider whether you need to recruit. That's the first question. What might be your alternatives? So could it be possible to reallocate work and staff? Could you potentially redesign the way things are done to make the most of the skills and attributes in your current team? Could you look at changing hours and arrangements?
Job sharing as well.
Job sharing, outsourcing, contractors. There's a whole range of different things that we would be sitting down and talking with you about to discern exactly what it was that you needed. Okay, on the practical side, you want to decide whether you're going to need a pre-employment medical. If, let's say, you've decided, yes, you need position X, and you put together a brief of what that position and the skills and attributes you're looking for look like. So you want to be clear about the skills, experience, qualifications, etc., and attributes that you're looking for, but you also need to decide whether you think a pre-employment medical might be required. Also a working with children check with some industries and positions. And also, we would also advocate this in every instance, a national criminal record check. So you will also, sensibly for any recruitment exercise, you would want to set a budget and a plan. Will you do it yourself? Will you get expert help? And look, and this often happens in regional areas, even if you've got a candidate in mind, which is often where businesses are at. So-and-so I think would be really good. I've known them for years, or I know their family, or what have you. Our advice is apply selection rigor to assess your assumptions. So go through the rigor that you would normally employ. Doesn't have to take you very long, but do those checks and balances to test actually whether this person, as nice a person as they are and as great a family as they have, whether or not they're going to be the right person for your business. Okay, so I'm going to just ask Gina to talk. I'm going to ask Gina some questions now, because she's on the front line of our recruitment projects, working with clients at the moment. But first of all, Gina's been with us since the January. I'm just going to say it was the end of last year. No, we did the recruitment at the end of last year. And Gina joined us in January, and she moved to us from Newcastle. So Gina, can you maybe talk to us about what were the most striking parts of your participation in the PPS recruitment process as a candidate? So what were the things that struck you?
It was definitely the advertisement initially. I think it was I can't remember the exact wording, so I can't quote, but it was definitely the initial wording within the ad that really got me. So I've personally wanted to work in HR for a very long time. I've come from a payroll background, so yes, HR related, but it wasn't so much specifically a human resource officer position. So initially when I saw the ad, which was, mind you, the first ad that I had picked up while I was actively looking for a position back in Armidale. So it was the first ad that I saw, and it was for a administration role actually. So initially the administration side of the role, it did really it encouraged me to apply, because I did have the specific, I guess, experience coming from an admin background. But it was also the wording of what Pinnacle does, and Pinnacle people, they are here to help regionally based New South Wales businesses. Coming from a regional New South Wales myself, I'm born and bred from Armidale. That really was very, what's the word?
Relevant for you.
Relevant for me. And it was the explanation of what Pinnacle does that really got me, and it attracted me because it explained a little bit about the organisation, and we did talk about ads at the start, and how wording and introducing your company to candidates is really important. So that's one thing that really got me interested. So I applied for the position, and I was lucky enough to get an interview actually. And then I realised, I had noticed that there was a HR officer position being advertised, something that I've always wanted to do. So although it was a little bit daunting to do this at the start, I had the chat with Gretel, our other consultant at the time, and I said, look, I really want to work for your company, but I noticed that you do have the HR position available as well. And so I took a leap of faith, I guess, to just say, look, I think that I'd be really great at that job. It's something that I've never really done either, to say, I'd be great at that job. But I think through the conversations that I had with Gretel, I was really comfortable, and she really took me through that recruitment process with the admin role. It was just lovely. It was a really nice process. And I mean, I've gone through multiple recruitments before. Some of them are terrible, and I have walked out and I've called my mum straight away going, that was terrible. And, she sort of reassures that, no, it's okay. But I didn't have to do it this time. I felt so comfortable with Pinnacle people that no matter what the outcome was, I had that really good initial experience. So that was really exciting for me. And then I was lucky enough to actually get the interview for the HR officer
I think
position.
we were blessed actually, but
No, but even through the process of the interview, I know we all have interviews, and sometimes you walk into a panel of 3 people sitting there, and they're very stern, and they're just very, scary looking really, and it just makes you feel very uncomfortable. The warmth that I actually got when I walked into the office with Lauren, Gretel, and Bron at the time was I just instantly felt comfortable as soon as I sat down. And it is very rare. So I think that it is really important that you do try and not be so serious when you are recruiting. And that's something that I have now taken on myself when I'm doing recruitments. I'll crack little jokes and make the candidate feel a little bit more comfortable, because it is a daunting process. No one wants to go through it. And if we can just make be obviously professional, but be light as well, it makes a really good experience for the candidates. And that is something that I experienced, which was, I was very lucky to have experienced that. And it is something that I've, as I mentioned, now taken on in my own personal recruitment. So I'm currently doing a big recruitment for a support company. So I'm looking for support workers, something that I wouldn't have a clue what I'm looking for, in terms of finding the best support worker. But I have used certain strategies that I've learned from Bron and the team that I use that warmth with my candidates, from my advertising as well, like, you know, certain wording. And I've actually had very good compliments about the wording, and when I ask candidates why they have applied for the position, they actually say to me, it was the ad. It's the way that you worded things in the ad that really
spoke to you.
That spoke to them. So that's been really good in initially finding those active employees.
And the time, can I ask about the process you've gone through to really, you mentioned before about, you know, when you started this process or when you looked at starting this project, that you really had to learn very quickly what was the essence of what they were looking for as a support worker, aside from, you know, the qualifications, skills, you know, those sorts of things. So how important was it for you to develop a really good rapport with the client to get that information and sort of really draw that out so that you could then do that to put candidates in front of them that were suitable?
It was extremely important. You could do your own research. I don't find that's effective. I mean, when I'm recruiting for other companies, it is very important to have that initial chat with them. You know, I was doing 5 different areas, and each hiring manager, for example, wanted something completely different to what the other hiring manager wanted. But it is also taking that into consideration. There are certain things that I would also present to them as well. You know, some hiring managers may have specific, this is what I'm looking for, and it may be more to do with the skills. It may be more to do with certain attributes of the position. But I would make suggestions of, okay, a person may not have the previous experience, but they may have really good transferable skills. And I am finding through doing recruitment, some of the candidates who have never worked in the role before, but may have had experience through, for example, church group, or even through their own personal experiences, they've got transferable skills that they are then able to present to me through that interview process. So it is just having,
you're learning how to find diamonds in the rough too.
Absolutely.
In terms of and broadening the client's perspective on what might be successful hires. Terrific.
And I think it is extremely, I mean, everyone's going to have this is what we're looking for, but maybe that hasn't, you've always had that, you know, in the back of your mind, this is what we're looking for, but maybe it hasn't worked. And this is why we are doing the recruitment process. So it's, really important that we work together as a recruitment consultant or HR officer, that I work with clients to sort of, you know, come up with a great, you know, list of attributes, instead of just having 3 really important attributes. It could be very large in the bigger scheme of things.
So we're pretty much out of time now. It was so fantastic to hear some of Gina's story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. She's doing a brilliant job with our clients in the recruitment space and other projects as well. So we would be delighted to get your questions. I'll be sure to answer them directly to you and overnight, and to make sure that that I respond to them tomorrow morning. When it comes to the mechanics of recruitment, it's incredibly important that you get those right as well. So our innovative strategies are more about knowing your story, telling the story effectively, getting it down the right channels, representing your organisation really well to potential candidates. And we're very conscious of that when we work with clients, that we are the face of our recruitment client, and it's incredibly important that we respect and reflect that reputation and that culture of the client. So I really like this quote by Lawrence Bossidy, actually. Nothing we do is more important than hiring and developing people. At the end of the day, you bet on people, not on strategies. So I'm going to leave everybody with that at this point in time. I would say, just as a reminder, recruitment is marketing. So if you do it well, you should expect to see an uptake in inquiries for your goods and services at the same time as interest in joining you as an employer. Ensure you meet your employer obligations regarding an employment contract, position description, and offer package to the candidate. If you need help, ask us. We can absolutely help you with that. Make sure that you have robust employment contracts and position descriptions and good policy in place. I mentioned this yesterday in the live stream about employment contracts and position descriptions. It's really important that staff are crystal clear about their entitlements and obligations and the expectations that you have. If you're unsure, ask us. We're here to help. In the exact same way that you would have a good tax accountant to put your company tax returns in, etc. at the end of the financial periods. So we're here to help you with your employment law and employment obligations. So get in touch. Thank you so much for joining Gina and I today. It's been delightful to sit here in the beautiful Armidale sun and talk to you. Yeah. If you have any specific questions as they might relate specifically to your business, or you want us to help you, contact us on the information I know our team has put up in the chat screen this morning. Tomorrow, please join us. I'll be talking about another element of the JobKeeper enabling directions and giving you some case studies on changing duties. And this is happening a lot at the moment as businesses are trying to survive and pivot. They're asking staff to do things that would be quite different to what they employed them to do. So join us while we talk about that tomorrow, and please invite your colleagues and friends to join us as well. We'd love to have them along. And as I said, I'll also be doing a special live stream broadcast on Saturday morning to look at the consequences for business and their staff of the Prime Minister's announcements tomorrow afternoon after the National Cabinet meeting. And that's particularly we're expecting a framework for the relaxation of restrictions and potentially a timetable around that. And of course, as we know, on Tuesday this week, there's been ramped up obligations and still consultations going on around work health and safety obligations for businesses in this time. So we will make sure to have those on our topic list for next week. But the most important stuff for you to know, we'll make sure that you know at Saturday's live stream. Yeah. So in the meantime, thank you so much, Gina.
Thanks.
I'll tell you what, it has been so lovely to have somebody else here in my office with me today, not the least of which the wonderful Gina. We've done the social distancing thing.
We have.
We've managed to do this, which is amazing. I wasn't quite sure how this might go. But look, until we see you again, please hug the people that you can. Please wave cheerily at those that you can't at this point in time. Stay safe, stay home, wash your hands, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Where's my little doohickey?
Where is it?
I don't know where it is. Oh.